what you have on the screen is 5 interview questions. We have a list of 60 most common interview questions. 60. And we do lots of work with going around those questions. They are coming from interviews. So on one hand, we wanted to come with good answers when interview comes. On the other hand, we wanted to understand what's behind, not just memorizing things, but understanding them. So those 5 are coming from the list of 60. What is quality? So guys, anybody, what's quality?
Certain standard. Customer satisfaction.
Customer satisfaction. Certain standard. More. So is it about customer being happy, or is it about certain requirements being satisfied?
Requirement.
It depends who you talk to. So both ideas are important, but when it comes to interview, and we are looking at the whole thing from interview perspective. When you go to an interview, it's not about coming with a good answer. What is it about?
Hearing what you think employer wants to hear.
Your attitude.
Attitude.
It's about you match this company or not.
Okay, guys. The answer you give at the time of interview should be better than other people provide. So interview is about getting a job. Okay? So on one hand, you have to be up to the job. So it should be good enough. So they don't sort you out right away. But good enough is not good enough because it has to be better than other people. Otherwise, you're not going to get a job. So when we look from that perspective, we are asking ourselves, okay, how should I answer that question to be better than other people? So other people would normally never come with 2 perspectives. Either, if they are coming from QA background, they say, oh yeah, quality is about requirements. If they are coming from any other perspective, they might say, well, it's about customer satisfaction, which is true. But even in software company itself, if you talk to president of the company, or you talk to salespeople or marketing people, to them it is also customer satisfaction, because if people don't buy it, there is no company and they lose a job. Guys, for them it's much more difficult to get a job. So you come with the answer which sounds like there are 2 perspectives in that. So from consumer perspective, we are talking about customer satisfaction. From QA perspective, since we are in QA, so we have to pay attention to requirements, and our job is to make sure it is up to the requirements. So that is the quality. But overall, the idea of quality is about customer satisfaction. So when we talk about that, not from the professional perspective, but human perspective, it's about people being happy. You might have some product, whatever product, which is perfectly up to the requirements. Doesn't mean people are happy or you sell it a lot. No. We have lots of new testers who think that if software is up to requirements, then people are going to buy it. No. We have lots of failures which are perfectly up to requirements. It just didn't work out. Okay? So what is software quality? Same. So software, so people either happy with your software or not happy. One perspective. Another perspective, software being up to requirements or not being up to requirements. What is the difference between software testing and software quality assurance? We will talk about testing and quality assurance a lot. The whole class is about it. But at the very basic level, software testing is looking at the source code. If there is no source code, there is no software testing. Software quality assurance has different object. The object of quality assurance is the process of creating software. And in that process, certain stages are happening prior to the code coming to life. So we have to come with requirements. We have to convert those prior to requirements. We have to do some analysis. So business analysts go and do the analysis. Then it comes to requirements converted into technical requirements. Then we have design of that software. And so, and after we have the design, then we have units to be developed. And then developers get their units and start the development. So software quality assurance is much broader in scope. It looks at its much broader picture. And software quality assurance makes sure the process is good. Hypothetically, guys, hypothetically, let's say we have our company in this building, and across the street we have nice, God knows, Starbucks or Pete's Coffee, whatever coffee place. Okay, they do real good coffee. And our developers go there 5 times a day, to get, well, 3 times a day, to get a coffee, and it comes like half an hour every time. And we think, from software testing perspective, we have nothing to do. I mean, there is no source code to find bugs in. But from the process perspective, so quality assurance perspective, we say, okay, what should we do to bring down the level of destruction? Why don't we spend $10,000 to buy the most beautiful coffee machine in the world? Okay, install it in our kitchen, so they go there, take the coffee, and go back to their office. Or we hire beautiful girl, $10 an hour, out of high school. Okay, so and she will bring coffee to them. So maybe, and then we can have cheaper machine. Okay, so whichever decision. Okay, I mean, if upper management likes that coffee, they maybe buy more expensive machine. If they like girls, they might hire a girl. It depends. But that is kind of quality assurance thinking. How to improve the process. Is it clear? Different object. Software quality assurance is preventive in nature. If the process is built right, so it will provide software of higher quality. It's not the definition of software quality. So what is software quality assurance? It's a prevention of bugs. Why? Because we improve the process. So software testing is reactive. The bug happens, and then we run into that bug. Software quality assurance is preventive. Let me ask you a question. What do you think is more complicated, testing or quality assurance? Sure. Some people would tell you that testing is a part of quality assurance, is a kind of stage, or one of the activities under quality assurance. Some people will tell you, no, testing is different. It doesn't matter. Whichever way they call it, guys, it's okay. As long as we understand what it means and what we have to do as a practical matter, so it doesn't matter if they include that in one group or another group. It's more like academic stuff. One day I was making video with discussion of what's test case. And to do that video, I researched certain things. And eventually I ran into an article, 15 pages article, on what is test case, written by a gentleman who, he's a well-known gentleman. He writes books, and so as I said, he knows what he's saying. Let's read that article. And I was reading 15 pages article, and the more I read, the less I understand what's test case. So it was shaking the foundation of my understanding. And I said, well, he must be coming from academia, okay, from universities, because at work, guys, you cannot do it like that. You have to say, okay, here is test case, let's go. So we are not up to academic definitions. We are very much on the practical side. And when you graduate and go to internships, they ask you, what is test case? When you go to the job market and you have experience already in your resume, nobody asks you, what is test case? Unless you screw up somehow. They ask you, okay, how did you do test cases? How, in that company where you worked on that project, how did they do test cases in that situation? That is what they ask. How did you do it? Not what it is. But if you tell them how you do it, and then they say, wait a second, but what do you mean under test case? because it conflicts with their idea. Okay. Is it possible to find and fix all the bugs in software product before it goes to the customers? I can tell you more, guys, just in between us. It never goes outside of that room unless anybody watches the video. Okay? Software is supposed to be of poor quality. It cannot be good in today's world. I mean, unless we are talking about very special situations, mission critical something. I mean, consumer software is not supposed to be of a good quality because the competition does not offer better quality software for same price. And most of the applications are free anyway. You go somewhere and it's free. And they do that because you just fill out the form or register and they send you crap emails and all that stuff, or they resell your email to other people. So it is supposed to be of poor quality. Because if you, let's say you say, you know what, I'm willing to spend 2 times more money, but make a real good product. Now, if you are in, like, let's say 20% profit margin, where you're going to be? Deep into negative cash flow. You cannot afford to do better quality software unless people, you basically, are willing to pay more for quality software. Today, there is no market for good, I mean, very tiny market for good quality software. So it is supposed to be of poor quality. And another thing, let's say we spend lots of time and money to make a good quality software. The question is, how long is it going to stay like that? 6 months? The most. So then the question is, it is not possible to find and fix. I can tell you more. Out of things found, most of them are not going to be fixed. Only the most critical stuff. So it goes to people with huge list of bugs known but not fixed. So why test? I mean, why you go to work every day and do something if no matter what you do, software goes to customers with lots of bugs not fixed and of whatever so-so quality. So what's your job? What is your job about?
Maybe we can find a critical one.
Yes, maybe. But you are not going to find all the critical bugs anyway. Guys, anybody is using Microsoft Internet Explorer today? Okay, 2 years ago. Yes. Did it crash on you every hour? Yeah. Guys, crash. It's not a big deal. Yeah? To Microsoft and Microsoft Internet Explorer. Guys, did you see any medications with side effects like death? Guys, believe me, people die from medications a lot. Okay? So, why test? At least we do something, or it's anyway better than, yeah. It's a very good attitude. I mean, guys, you give me money and I'll do something, which is better than nothing, okay? But I'm not going to do it cheap.
Would that be like a risk assessment? If there's something really big, we're going to crash the program, they have to fix it.
Not really. It might crash, but still they decide not to fix because that crash is not that much of an important crash. So because we have issue like severity of a problem and priority of the problem. Severity might be crash real bad, but priority might be very low because that crash happens under such unusual circumstances. We decide not even to fix it because we don't think anybody is likely to get there. People find lots of reasons not to fix. They have deadlines, and again, fix upon fix upon fix. It requires time. Time means it requires money. So they might be tight on budget, and I mean, millions of reasons not to fix. Why test? Guys, we are coming to a very important conclusion here. And actually, I gave you the answer already. You just do not have that in your active part of the brain yet. So we are pushing that into your active part of the brain. We are not in business of testing for finding more bugs. we are in business of testing for creating processes and systems. Look from quality assurance perspective. If you work in QA organization or software testing organization, department, your job, major job is to create systems, and systems will assure the quality. Think about McDonald's. Why people pay money for McDonald's? Franchise. Not for sandwich, but franchise. What they pay money for? Systems. Guys, they have systems in place. The way it looks, the way it is advertised, the way the food tastes, the technology, the training, everything. Systems. So each and every organization exists to create and to enforce the business systems. That is the purpose. Some businesses enslave people. Let's say some business owners are slaves of the business. They cannot replace themselves with the system. Let's say dentist, guys, unless dentist does the job, there is no money coming to the office. So if you look at our school, so we have a system, let's say teaching is a system. I can replace myself. I just like teaching, so I do some teaching, but I do resumes, but I can replace myself with resumes. In some business, you cannot play golf, and business is working because you are a part of the system. You are one of the systems. So in software testing, we deal with a couple of systems. Test planning is a system. Either we have test documentation or we do not have test documentation. If we do not have test documentation and someone is quitting the job, it's very difficult to replace that person because we can find a good tester, maybe same level, but that person doesn't know the product and doesn't know the background and doesn't know certain things which are important to know, and it might take 6 months, maybe 1 year to just to replace it. Someone who left after 5 years. If you have documentation, it might be 2 weeks or maybe 3 months. It's much faster. Bug reporting. I'll tell you a story. I was asked for referral, and many years ago, and there was a lady with maybe 5 years of experience, and at that time it was maybe 99 or so. It was a lot. She was a guru of testing. And I call her and I say, listen, there is a good company, good people, I know them, they are looking for someone. Would you go? She says, Michael, it's so difficult to move me now. I said, why? She says, where else I shouldn't write bug reports? I'm saying, are you still in QA business? She says, yes. And you are not writing bug reports? She says, yeah. I'm saying, but you find bugs? She says, yes. So what do you do when you find a bug? She says, I go to developer and show that bug on his screen. God, you don't want to be the developer, interrupted 20 times a day by someone. And I'm saying, but how many bugs a day would you normally submit? She says, in average, maybe 25. I'm saying, okay, 25, let's say 500 a month. She says, yes. At the end of the month, how do you know which ones you reported, so you have to go and make sure they're fixed? She says, I remember. And she was like 50 years old, which I doubt she remembers as much as she remembered at 25 maybe. And then I'll say, okay, in 3 months with 1,500 bugs, how do you know which ones were fixed? She says, I remember. So she enjoyed the disaster, because if there is no bug taking system, guys, nobody keeps you accountable. Nobody knows if you did a lot or nothing. I mean, really, it's such a cool thing. I mean, I remember one gentleman, same story. I call him, I say, listen, they need someone, and he was real good. And he says, Michael, again, it's difficult to move me now, because to move me, 2 things should happen. So it should be at least 110,000, and number one, condition number 2, I should be doing nothing there. I'm saying, how can you visualize such a thing? He says, easy. I mean, now I'm making 100,000 and I'm doing nothing. So if I move, at least I want more money for doing so. That kind of, unsustainable things. Okay, something which shouldn't happen, but it might happen. Cancer happens. Nothing good. test automation is one of the systems. Might happen, might not happen. A release certification. So how we decide if the release is good enough to be signed off. Okay. So certain systems in place. And the purpose of coming to the workplace on everyday basis is not in finding more bugs. I mean, it happens anyway. And the better the systems, the better we are in finding bugs. And the better we are in making sure they are fixed, which is even more important. There is a common question, we will go through those. Who is a better tester? The one who finds more bugs or the one whose bugs are better fixed? I mean, more bugs are fixed. Second one, because that way you make more impact. See what I mean? So, release certification, good. Keep going. We are looking at most common types of testing. There are more than that. But most common types of testing, which I organized into groups, so we can easier differentiate between them. So positive testing versus negative testing. The purpose here is not to learn those types of testing. We have another place for that. We are looking at the bigger picture, and it helps us to understand the bigger picture. So positive testing versus negative. You remember when I called friends and they told me, we do not need testers, we test ourselves. It's true, guys. Developers have to make sure they develop the correct thing. That is positive testing. Making sure software does what it is supposed to do if user does what user is supposed to do.
Yeah, but they spend more time. Developers like 20% and 80% is like to find and fix for the developer.
What we are saying here is when developers do testing, their testing is positive testing. Developers focus primarily on users being able to do what they are supposed to be doing. So then we have negative testing, which if you don't do it, then pretty much nobody does it. Negative testing answers the question, okay, what if user doesn't do exactly what we want user to do? And scope of negative testing is much broader. I mean, if you have one sequence of steps of doing things right, there might be 25 sequences, which deviate from the right one. And so the question is how a system would react if. Negative testing is something to be neglected a lot, because if you have limitation of time or money or whatever, what should you do first? Positive. If you have time left, then you go for negative. Negative comes with lots of bugs found. I mean, lots of things happen, good things when you do negative. But you know what? When we talk about testers doing testing and developers doing testing, developers are specifically focused on positive. For developer to say that piece of software is done, developer has to do positive testing. Negative, they might do eventually some, obviously, but most of the negative is done by testers. So that is answering the question why testers are needed. If developers test their code, who needs testers? Well, we've got a lot here. Black box versus white box. The whole idea here is from which perspective you test. If you pretend to be a user, and you look as a user, and you behave as a user, and you find problems at the user level, so you are doing black box testing. So black box means there is a box with code, and I don't know what that code is about. I don't know. I just send an input, and I look at the output. A white box is different. There is a book where they call it glass box, so you can see. So white box means we test at the source code level. Developers do white box testing. White box testers do white box testing. You might do white box testing if you know a little bit of HTML and JavaScript, and you can go to any, let's say, web page. Let's see. Let's say I am on that web page, and I'm saying view page source. Yeah? And here is HTML and JavaScript and whatever that page is about. So if you understand HTML, JavaScript, guys, you can find problem right here. And if you report that problem at that level, you are saying in such and such line, let's say line 22, okay, something is missing, so then you do white box testing. It is not who does it, okay? It is how testing is done. At which level, which methodology. Developer. When developer thinks, okay, is it done or is it not done? Developer runs the application and pretends to be a user and does it from black box perspective. If something goes wrong, developer switches to debugger window and says, aha, that is where it happened. So here is white box testing. Because now we are looking at the problem in the source code. See what I mean? So developer constantly moves from black box to white box. To do diagnostics, he has to do it at white box. To establish the fact of something not working, he has to be on black box. See what I mean? So it's not who does it. We teach you black box testing here. But since we go over basics of HTML and JavaScript and XML and SQL, so you might eventually do something at white box level as well. Gray box, we will talk about gray box. Unit integration system. Okay, we have to look a little bit at software development life cycle. There are two life cycles very common in today's world. So traditionally we looked at waterfall, waterfall, and waterfall means stage by stage by stage. Another one is agile, where things are happening in parallel. So we are looking at the classic way. So let's say we work in Wells Fargo Bank. So you are bank tellers here. And bank decided to automate the way you work. I remember time when they used paper, lots of paper applications and different things. So they sent people called business analysts to look at how bank tellers work. They just look over your shoulder. You hate them. You don't want people who look over your shoulder. It's important. So, and they come up with certain things you do. Let's say when it comes to checking accounts, they notice that you ask like 15 questions. And based on the answers, the process might branch into more questions or less questions and this and that. And they say, aha, they might open, if you look at all the varieties of the checking accounts, we have 53 checking accounts, possible configurations. So then we have 53 use cases. So use case is basically the specific way of interaction between system and user. So to create this checking account, this configuration, we have to do that interaction. And so use cases are a format for requirements, business requirements, not technical, but business requirements. So business analysis. So we do analysis. And then requirements. And then out of requirements, guys, it might vary from company to company, but let's say we do design. So what is design? Or architecture, another word for that, architecture. Architect looks at all the requirements and says, aha, to implement that, we need certain structure. So it's a very critical job, by the way. Some people are good at architecture. That means they are good developers. Some people are good at coding and they cannot do any architecture. So it's a special talent here. And architect says, okay, we need unit number one, units. Okay, he creates units. Unit number one is going to be about integration with Facebook and Twitter. Unit number two is going to be about creating nice looking reports. Unit number three is going to be about collecting user data. Unit number four, and so on. Okay, many units. And the architect also says, okay, that is how units communicate to each other. There is some communication, some data exchange, and they work somehow together. After that structure is in place, the design. Now it is very easy. We are saying, okay, You develop unit number 1, you develop unit number 2, you develop number 3, done. So we can start the development process. So from design, we are moving to development. Some people call it coding. Some people call it implementation, which I don't like. Why I don't like it? Because implementation might be understood differently. Let's say if you are in Wells Fargo Bank doing that stuff. So after everything is ready, we have to implement. We go to bank tellers, we teach them how to use it, we collect their feedback, and then, so implementation might be used differently. Not implementation of requirements, but implementation of the product, at the workplace level. So coding. And coding, we might have alpha stage and beta stage and release stage, and then we might have more stages. And eventually it comes to maintenance. Sometimes it comes to end of life. Guys, sometimes just to get rid of software, you have to plan for it. Certain systems. So maintenance and maybe testing, documentation, lots of different things. Part of your homework is to read about it. Now, so we have that waterfall architecture, development model. And so unit testing, integration testing, system testing. Unit testing is about white box testing. It's not done by black box testers. So white box testers or developers are doing unit testing, and to understand the challenge of unit testing, I will give you an example. Let's imagine we look at, we are manufacturing engines for cars. And our product is engine and engine and engine. Now, the thing is, how do we test engines? Should we have a car? Should we put that engine into the car, drive around a little bit, then extract engine, and put another engine into that car? Or it is done differently? What do you think? It is done differently. They have special equipment. They put engine, connect it to that equipment, push the button, and remove it. Same thing happens here. If you want to test certain unit, and that unit communicates with other units, here is the challenge. So then you do unit testing. You have to replace all those connections, okay, with certain patches. So you create that environment. Because if you rely on that environment, it might not be in existence, and you still have to test it. So that is how you test. So that is so it is done by developers. You have to be a developer to do that. Integration. Integration is testing the communication between units. So how they work together. So it might include 2 units, 3, and more. But on the black box side, we also talk about integration. And instead of unit, we are saying module, functional module. We can test functional module. And then we can integrate that. We can test module 1, module 2, and then how they work together. Or just module 1, and then we add module 2 and see how they work together. So that is integration. So integration happens on both white box and black box level, but the meaning is different. System testing is like test drive of a car. You get into that car, you might not even know what's in there, And it's not about pneumatics or computer or hydraulics or, You just drive a car. If either it fails or it passes, that's it. System, okay. Functionality, regression, acceptance. When we say here what we do or why we do that, it relates to number 4. So the names here are coming out of why. Functionality testing, why do we do functionality? Because we want to make sure requirements are implemented. That is the idea of functionality testing. At some point, it will pass. Requirements are there. After that, we do not need functionality anymore. But what we do need, we need regression. Because anytime developers modify the code, what might happen, they break something which used to work before. So the purpose of regression testing is to make sure nothing got broken. Okay? Acceptance, the purpose of acceptance is, it is kind of obvious. Either we accept or reject. What do we accept or reject? The most common one would be release. So we have, or build. So a new version of the code is compiled, and either we take it to QA and keep working on it, or we say, not good, we keep using the old one. Because the release process by itself is a buggy process. So release acceptance test is the most frequent test. It is done for each and every release. If it passes the acceptance test, then it comes for regression. Did we break anything down? So regression is second most frequent test. Okay? Validation versus verification. It is kind of complicated, somewhat complicated. If you start Googling for that, you might be confused a lot. But the idea here is validation is pretty much about something which comes from outside of us, our company, organization. So verification is something which happens inside. But there is another kind of way of looking at that. We are saying, okay, we have requirements, and we have to make sure requirements are implemented. So that is called verification. Implementation of requirements is verification. But the more we understand the requirements, because when we start testing, we understand that much. The more we get into the testing, so the better we understand the requirements. The better we understand that something is missing, or something is not up to date, or something has to be really changed or eliminated completely. And so we reflect on requirements. When we ask for certain improvements, suggestions, we come with lots of suggestions. So it is all under validation. So either we are saying, okay, requirements are fixed, let's see how they are implemented. Totally different pictures. Here are the requirements. That is what we want to change in requirements to benefit the user, to make it a better software. So that is the difference between verification and validation. When you think about software testing has three components in it. So one component is verification. That is a major component, making sure it is up to the requirements. Another component is validation. It's a part of software testing. We look at requirements, we are saying, wait a second, we have to change them here. And third component is error detection, which might be taken 95% of the time, but it is a function of verification. Okay? So verification and validation are two siblings, okay, of the software testing process. Implementation of requirements and are requirements good? That kind. Unless you run into government control things like medical devices or medical softwares, or you start working for NASA or some military project, so then that is pretty much what you should know about validation. Because if you run into special areas, so then they don't even use the word testing. They primarily use the word validation, because it's about being in compliance with all the requirements. So to them it's all validation. It comes from outside requirements. So but even then, when they verify implementation of requirements, they still call it validation because it comes from outside. Okay. Ad hoc, exploratory. So we discussed ad hoc, exploratory, and structured already. Ad hoc is kind of monkey. Okay, so we do it fast. Planning, executing, and learning happens pretty much at the same time. Ad hoc is less extreme. Okay, so we think, why don't we do this? Then we do it, and you say, so what? And kind of more relaxed. And structured means just following the process. So that's kind of on monkey side. Okay, just follow. Structured is good for automation. You don't have to change anything. You just religiously follow the process, and that's it. What we do or why we do that? Yeah, it's about functionality. Why? Implementation of requirements. Why? Nothing is broken. And acceptance is we have to say, okay, we take it or we reject it. In QA, there is another type of acceptance testing which becomes more and more popular. It's called user acceptance testing. It's a totally different type, and I can show you something on our website. We did look at the forums here. Let me go there. Forums. Oh God. No. Okay. Forums, and if you scroll down a little bit, we have that software QA testing interview questions. And here, after we discuss certain things, I just document that. And basically, each and every topic here answers one of the interview questions. So what did we discuss today? Ad hoc. Okay, what is ad hoc testing? Let's see. Definition: simplified form of exploratory testing where test planning, executing, and learning are happening at the same time. That is the definition. But then we have bullets. Bullets are coming with details. Very often the definition which you provide, it doesn't explain much. So still lots of things are not clear, and that is how you do it better than other people. What is this? It's not enough to come with definition. You come with more details. You are saying it is a random or non-systematic functionality testing. Random. There is some randomness in the, I mean, it's all random. It is not monkey testing. Some people say it's monkey testing. It is not, because it doesn't include planning and learning. It helps to find numerous bugs due to rare combinations of user actions. Why numerous bugs? Because nobody in his mind would ever do that. I can give you a story. I have so many stories, guys. I don't have to make up stories, because when I say real stories, nobody believes me anyway. I have to make up stories so people believe me. We had two guys. Actually, manager calls many years ago. Manager calls and he says, look, I have a budget which I have to spend. If I don't spend it, they cut my budget next quarter. Okay, here is the deal. You send me two guys, okay, and I pay them $15 per hour for 2 months. I don't need them. I mean, really, we have perfectly tested product. Just that budgetary issue. I send them two boys, and he calls me in a week, maybe. Yeah, and when he speaks, I know something happens there. I mean, the voices, the vibrations here. Say, Michael, what do you teach them? I said, what? So, what happened? They totally destroyed his perfectly tested project, okay? And the release was postponed for another 3 months. And eventually they converted boys to permanent, and that company was purchased by Apple in a couple of years. But it's okay. So what I'm saying, they didn't do anything. I mean, they just did that monkey testing, guys. They don't know the product. What is this? Boom, crash. What is that? Boom, crash. They don't know what it is. I mean, it's fresh eye, fresh look. They just look at it. What is this? I don't know. That's it. That is the value of ad hoc, because when people have certain way of thinking, and after a while they cannot think differently anymore. So that is just one thing they test, and all other venues are available. That is why. Main purpose is learning about the application, not breaking it down. But still you break it down a lot. Yeah. Guys, ask doctors. Go to 10 doctors and ask, say, doctor, are you in business of medicine to make more money, or you just enjoy helping people? What they gonna tell you guys? But they still make money. Yeah. So same story. We are in business of verifying requirements. We still write lots of bug reports. Yeah, sure, but it's not the purpose of our life. So we come for the big thing. Okay. So it is available, so you don't need any password. So it gives you quite a few answers. And if we ever run into something not documented here, guys, tell me, we'll document. That is how we create more and more and more on that page. So positive, negative. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah, we are done. We are done. So guys, now we will do practical exercise. You will find bugs. You are saying, where? I'll tell you. I'll give you a link. Just a second. I will put it in Notepad, but let me find it first myself. Guys, online home, portnov.com online home is the page where you will get your homework. The original purpose of that page is for people interested in our online class. And I'm saying, guys, go there. You will see 3 first sessions, video webinars there. But so you are very welcome to look at that as well. But so far, what we need here is yes. Why don't you go there? Portnov.com online home. Are you there? Okay. When you are there, go to the session number 2. Scroll down to the session number 2. And here you have GUI test assignment. Can you see it? GUI test assignment. Okay, let's go there. I will probably put it in Notepad here so you can type it in if you wish. So guys, no username, no password.
Online home.
Online home. One more time. Portnov.com/online home session 2 GUI test assignment here. Anybody who cannot get there? Okay. Portnov.com/online home.
Oh, it's in this. That's why it's not.
Portnov.com okay. 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 Scroll down. Session 2. Scroll down. Up. Yes. No. Go to the end of that section. Yes. It says GUI test. Yes. Click there. So guys, if you find it yourself, help your neighbor to do that. So everybody is there? Okay. The origin of that page is very simple. That company called Tole, when you come for an interview, they give you that page. Students reported me that page. So when you go somewhere, and you let me know. And that is what they give you, and they say, okay, find as many bugs as you can. So guys, find as many bugs as you can. You can open Notepad on your screen and take notes, and I'll give you 10 minutes. And in 10 minutes, we will come back and look at the bugs you find. Okay? Europe.